Good evening. A very warm welcome to you, our viewers, our members, our friends, our benefactors. I know you're used to seeing Richard in this slot, but he's weaving his magic in the background and lining up our candidates. Now, this evening, we're meeting our candidates, the Scottish Family Party candidates for this election. And along with the manifesto launch, this is one of the first things Richard and I put into our diaries, because it'll give an opportunity for our candidates to promote themselves and those SFP policies they are passionate about. Now, we've got a talented group of individuals who are not professional politicians, which you, I know, will welcome, but they're members of a party who care deeply about the future of Scotland and believe we have many of the answers this country so desperately needs. Now, they've all been through detailed vetting and in-depth training, and they all, I know, feel very privileged to stand on our manifesto principles and to promote our policies. Now, we've got 14 in the studio of our 42 candidates. They're in our virtual studio, and they come from the world of business, education, IT, distribution, tourism, and much more. So they're highly experienced. Now, each one of them will be chatting to you for a couple of minutes to present themselves. So please post any comments you have or questions or points of clarification as we move through this session. And we shall hopefully have 15 to 20 minutes at the end to deal with your posts, and possibly during the middle of this session to provide a bit of a natural break. So without further ado, I'm delighted to invite our first candidate, who is Phil Holden, and who is also Deputy Leader of the party. Philip.
Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Hello. Welcome. Good to see you.
I'm going to speak a little bit about the shared tax allowance. We're just going to speak about a policy that I'm passionate about. Let's imagine you've got two families, and each family has an income of £25,000. In one family, one parent earns the full £25,000, and the other parent looks after their child. They pay £2,464 of income tax, but they get zero benefit. In the second family, they both earn £12,500 each. They pay zero income tax and get £5,500 worth of benefit for nursery. Two families with the same income, one puts something in and gets nothing out, another puts nothing in and gets loads out. This is not fair. The state is in effect paying £7,500 worth of incentives for parents to have their children raised by the state. The parents have the right to use the money to enable somebody else to raise their child according to the state's values, but they have no right to use the money to enable themselves to raise their child according to their own values. It sounds a bit like what David Cameron called the nudge, finding intelligent ways to encourage people to make better choices for themselves. We see the same thing for high income earners. Imagine two families which each earn an income of £86,000. The family with a full-time parent is disadvantaged by £17,000 when compared with the family with two working parents earning half as much each. The Scottish Family Party thinks no one cares for children as much as their parents. It's not right to provide artificial incentives aimed at stopping parents from doing this. We think mums and dads that decide to look after their own children should not be disadvantaged. We think couples should have a shared tax allowance, and any money that is made available for childcare should be available to parents too.
That's great, Phil. A nice nitty-gritty economic set of issues there, and as they say in elections, it's all about the economics. So thank you for that, and I'm sure we might have a number of questions later on about these tax allowances. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Could I now call on Philip Tanzer?
Hello, Mike. Hi there. Hi, Michael.
Welcome.
Thank you. So in I focus on something that is not all about economics. I focus on free speech, and I think in a democracy, free speech is one of the highest values that we have. So my name is Philip Tanser. I'm the candidate for the region Highlands and Islands, and I moved to Scotland from Germany 9 years ago due to my deep love for Scotland. And since I moved to Scotland, I unfortunately have witnessed a steady decline in one of the most important values that Scotland has: freedom. While the SNP pretends to stand for freedom through independence, they are, in fact, taking more and more freedom away from the Scottish people. Over the last decade, I have seen a decline in the ability of the Scottish people to express themselves freely. Friendly, open, and cheeky banter was replaced with political correctness and forced tolerance. I have always experienced Scotland as tolerant, but also as honest. Now we restrict our open honesty for fear of saying the wrong thing and being labeled racist, homophobic, sexist, or transphobic. Even worse, the new hate speech legislation can now make you a criminal simply for opposing the far left narrative. Comedians can't make offensive jokes anymore without the threat of being fined. The same is true for religious groups and also for all of us. How long before the police knocks at my door and your door if I say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman, and that transgenderism might be a mental health issue? And it doesn't matter if I'm correct or not, but we need to have the right to say it, just like they have the right to claim that a man can be a woman. Democracy needs open debate and diverse opinions. We lose our freedom and therefore our democracy because the government dictates what opinions are allowed and acceptable. This dramatic restriction of our freedom is supposed to be supported by the media, who actively silence conservative views. Even normal views are now being censored. It prevents the voice of a large part of society from being heard. Not even the conservatives truly stand up against these far left ideologies that will destroy the cohesion of our society at one point. You have to stand up for your freedom and the right to express your opinion. And we, the Scottish Family Party, want to bring back real open debate to the Scottish Parliament, challenging the terrible current status quo in our society and politics, by representing freedom of speech, common sense, and traditional values. Thank you.
Thank you for that powerful presentation, Philip. Always articulate and interesting that, having come from Germany, you're probably more sensitive to the changes that you've viewed in Scotland.
Yes, very much so.
Okay, so perhaps we'll get a chance to speak again later in the program. Thank you, Philip.
My pleasure.
A wonderful presentation by Philip, and I'm working with him in the Highlands and Islands, and a great candidate. I'd like now to welcome Leo Lanahan.
Hello, Michael. Hi there.
Leo, welcome.
Hi. Great.
How are
great.
you? How are you this evening?
Fine this evening. So I'm here in the Coatbridge and Christing constituency, where I'm standing for Parliament for the first time in my life. I'm 60 years of age, and well, Coatbridge is well known for the time capsule adventure pool. We've got lovely parks and countryside, and a proud history of a mining and an ironworks past. And many people may know the Summerlee Heritage Park, which is built on the site of one of the last ironworks. So the local population is around 40,000, and it's a fairly stable population, but in fact it's been declining. I've tried to help with that trend, and I have 5 adopted children, and who I'm raising here in Coatbridge. So one of our goals in the Scottish Family Party is to enhance democracy and to champion democracy at a national and local level. So one of our ideas is to promote referenda, which offers an important check, we think, on public debate, because it allows all opinions and perspectives to be heard and represented. And we need checks and scrutiny when it comes to political decision making and the influence that the media can have on the debate. So MSPs with the opportunity to call for referenda could be an important enhancement to democratic debate and engagement. And further, we need our local governments to be more than bodies who implement national and government decisions. So looking at Scotland's local authorities, we feel that many are too large, and there's been a loss of district councils, and that's reduced how well our elected officials connect with their local neighbourhoods. So we'd like to see local councils where hustings and debates perhaps are recorded, then made available online to connect people with their local representatives. And one issue is council tax. We'd like to see that more explicitly linked with spending, so that local officials are more accountable for the services that are provided. So, Michael, when you vote for the Scottish Family Party, you're voting for candidates who will stand up for speech, freedom of speech, of religion, for peaceful debate, and for the protection of privacy and family life and the rights of parents. And we will do all we can to enhance democracy. Thank you.
Yeah, spoken like a hardened politician, and
I don't know.
full marks to you for having a go at this at the youthful age of 60, tender age of 60, and you don't by any chance work for the Coatbridge Tourist Board, do you?
No. Well, I'm hoping maybe a position will open up.
But I mean, you painted such a wonderful picture. I mean, I must visit the area again and see some of these sites. Okay, every success with your campaign, Leo. Thank you. Okay, I'd next like to invite Christine McKeever from the Glasgow area and covering Central Scotland into the studio. Christine, good evening and welcome.
Hi, Michael. It's nice to see you. It's McIver. Sorry to be pedantic. It depends on which island you're from, how you pronounce the name. So.
I'm sorry to have insulted you right at the beginning.
It's not an insult. It's not an insult at all. Not at all. So I'm a list candidate, standing in Central Scotland, and while I am extremely pleased to be part of the Scottish Family Party with all their excellent policies, there are two areas in particular which are close to my heart. The first being education. I'm a teacher, so that kind of stands to reason. And even in the short time, well, it's now over 10 years, it feels like a short time, I've been teaching, I've seen standards falling, and certainly when I think back to my own education, I know that the children that I teach are not being educated as well as I was. So I'm delighted that the Scottish Family Party is so keen to promote academic rigour, which can only be good for Scotland, and is also keen that classroom management, behaviour management is key to that promotion of academic rigour. And I really do believe that the future of the country depends on a well-educated population. And the second area that is very important to me is freedom. Scottish Family Party is a pro-freedom party, and Philip has already talked about free speech and the hate crime bill. But obviously over the past year, we have seen masses of freedoms taken from us, very basic freedoms taken from us, in the UK as a whole. And so I'm absolutely delighted that the Scottish Family Party is keen to lift all COVID restrictions and that Scotland can open up and can benefit in all ways, socially, spiritually, morally, every way, financially, from those increased freedoms.
Well, yeah, thank you for introducing that that part of our policies about opening up as quickly as possible, maintaining the vulnerable, keeping them safe. But you know, we just need to get this economy and our lives moving again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what has been happening to the people that are in care homes, I find absolutely abhorrent. It's unconscionable. I can't think of another word to describe it. And really, we need these restrictions to be lifted as soon as possible.
Yeah. Okay, Christine, look, it's lovely to have you on the program, and my thanks to you for standing with us within the party, and it's lovely to have your cat joining us this evening.
Sorry about that.
And the fact you still wax lyrical despite those interruptions. So many thanks, Christine. Okay, next, a young man, I think one of our youngest candidates, William Neeson from Glasgow. Welcome, William.
Hello, thank you for having me, Michael.
Yeah, greetings. I got your name right, did I?
Absolutely.
Excellent. So, William, tell us a little bit about yourself.
As Michael has said, my name is William Neeson. I am from the Glasgow region, which I am running as a SFP list candidate for. I've grown up in Glasgow South Side my entire life, and I have seen the results of multiple current government policies effect on this, what was a wonderful area of the city, slowly being reduced, and it's tragic. Similar to what Mr. Philip Tanzer said earlier in regards to freedom. We are one of the only parties that I can think of where defending freedom is one of our actual policies and principles that we will actively fight for. No other party will say they're against it, obviously, but we say we're for it and we will fight for it, because freedom is one of the things that it's very easy to take it for granted when you have it, but once it's taken away from you, it's very, very difficult to get it back. We want to prevent that from happening. Even if it's just something as simple as you the freedom to raise your children to your values, the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, freedom of association. If you could find yourself getting potentially spoken to by the police because you sit down and have a little word with your teenage child about whether or not they're actually trans or whether or not they're just going through a bit of a phase, what does that sound like freedom? Of course not. Of course, there are many up in the establishment who might talk about freedom for Scotland as a country, whether that in regards to constitutional debates or whatever. But ultimately, independence as a state will be irrelevant if we don't have independence as individuals. If we don't have the freedom to speak our minds, and I'm not talking freedom in the Braveheart sense, I mean in the real sense, if we don't have the freedom to speak our minds, to be honest, while tactful with each other, and express ideas that could help us move forward as a society, and yet still being mindful of people's feelings, if we can't do that, we will never be able to actually reach a point where we need to, whether it be economically, whether it be culturally, whether it be individually. Freedom is one of the most important principles of any functioning society. And if it gets taken away bit by bit, it might be hard to notice at first, but by the time it's gone, it might be too late. So that's why the SFP, the Scottish Family Party, will fight for that freedom. Even, as I said, even if it's just the right to fight to raise your kids to your own values. Thank you.
Yeah, what a wonderful, impassioned plea, William. And we need more people to listen to that message. And it's so good to hear it from a young man who recognizes this, while everybody else seems to be sleepwalking towards this precipice and giving up these individual freedoms.
Well, as I said, it's when you have it, it's easy to take it for granted, but that's why it's so important to recognize it when you have it. And hey, that's what we're here for. And yes, yeah. I'm young, guilty as charged.
Anyway, I wish you every success in the campaign, and I'm sure you'll be very good out there on the stump.
Thank you very much, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you, William. Yeah, well, lovely young man. And another lovely youngish man from Glasgow, Paul Laird. Hi,
Good
Paul.
evening, Michael. Thank you for that. I feel a lot better now. Yeah, I'm a young 52, and I noticed you didn't mention my career choice earlier. I'm one of the dark side. I work in banking industry.
Oh, we won't hold that against you.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of different things coming on tonight, and my personal choice is valuing life. Now, I know one of my colleagues is going to come on later and talk about abortion, so I'm not going to rain on his parade. My main point just now is this assisted suicide bill that they're trying to push through Parliament. We've seen it recently, and about 2 years ago in the Netherlands, where they had this assisted suicide bill, and there was a young girl of 16 years old who they put through the assisted suicide section because she was depressed. Instead of getting the girl help, they put her through as assisted suicide, and that young girl died at 16 years old, and it was a tragedy. Now, where will that end? Will it be a specific age group? Are you only going to be able to get it, or are we going to see it like it is with the abortions just now? And I know this for a fact, is that I've got a lot of friends who I am a member of the 40 Days for Life group who pray outside abortion centres. And one of the things that we have noticed is that people have told us that these two doctor rules, where if you're going for an abortion, you're supposed to see two different doctors, they're already signed the forms before you even get and see the nurse. So half the time you don't even see the doctors. Now, if that's the way it is, how's that going to be with assisted suicide? Is it going to be a case of I can say I want my mum helped to death? Where does it end? And that's the scary thing, is where does it end?
Yes, it's the slippery slope argument, isn't it, Paul? That once you allow it under restricted circumstances, there suddenly appears these loopholes. And as you say, the two doctor signatures on the abortion side was always to protect the interests of the patient and the unborn baby, and now it's just
the doctor signed it before the girl even comes into the room, before she even sees the nurse. That's signed.
Yeah, and that's illegal. That's illegal under the law.
But they get away with it. I mean, we've seen it when Northern Ireland had their anti-abortion. The SNP were bringing people over here from Northern Ireland, where it was illegal to have an abortion, to have abortions in Scotland. Why is that happening? Why are we paying for people to come here to have abortions? It's deplorable. It is deplorable.
Yes. Okay, Paul. So we have this. The Scottish Family Party is definitely pro-life. We seek to protect life from conception through
to the grave.
To the grave. And I must say, I do take my hat off to those pro-lifers that are praying for poor girls going into clinics, and who do that totally peacefully and in a loving way. And you deserve to be applauded. And thank you for your sort of passionate belief in pro-life principles. And a good evening to you, Paul.
Thank you very much, Michael, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you. Wonderful, man. So we're coming on to a couple of sort of pre-recorded videos now of two of our very strong candidates. One is the first video is from Steve Saunders, who is he's standing as a constituency candidate in Glenrothes, and he's also on the Mid-Scotland regional list. So a short video from Steve Saunders.
Hi there, I'm Steve Saunders, and I've lived and worked in Fife for nearly 25 years, firstly in the East Neuk and more recently in Glenrothes. I retired nearly 3 years ago and now work part-time as an environment consultant. Outside of work, I enjoy walking, cycling and playing table tennis for Fife in the Edinburgh and Lothian Table Tennis League. My wife Davina and I have been members of the Scottish Family Party since 2019, joining because so many policies agree with, or pretty close to, the traditional old-fashioned values instilled in us during our upbringing. With a desire to make a difference where we live, I put myself forward as the constituency candidate for the party in Mid-Fife and Glenrothes. I would like to discuss the Scottish Government's attempt to close what was described previously by an SNP MSP as the iniquitous Attainment Gap. This phenomenon arises since, and I'm quoting here, many children and young people living in the most deprived communities do significantly worse at all levels of the education system than those from our least deprived communities. Since 2015, the government has spent approximately £750 million across so-called challenged communities in a quest to remove this gap. Part of this sum was generated by raising council taxes in better off areas, a bit like Robin Hood taking from the rich to help the poor. A noble cause, provided, of course, that the money benefits the least well off. A 2020 report by the Joseph Rowntree Foundation concluded that not only is the gap not narrowing, but is getting wider as children progress through the different levels of education. This is supported by the government's own figures. So we do need to ask, why have the government continued to pour so much money into a program that is clearly not succeeding? And more importantly, what can be done to give all children, not just those in the most deprived areas, a better start and hope for the future? Before the government's program was implemented, there was clear evidence from high-level education institutions in Scotland that the most significant contributory factor to the attainment gap was the IQ of children, and that this was an inherited trait. It was obvious from the outset, therefore, that no amount of funding would reduce this gap significantly. It has always been clear that some children are more gifted than others academically, just as it was obvious to me when raising my kids that not all fit into, or even want to fit into, the rigours of discipline of school learning during their teenage years. However, these children, whatever their situation in life, will possess other skills and attributes which must be identified early and, I believe, nurtured. I believe that lifelong learning is to be encouraged, not just at school, college or university, but throughout life. The tens, nay hundreds of millions wasted by the Scottish Government should have been spent preparing our youth and young adults for this eventuality before they are left too far behind. Thanks for listening.
Okay, that's great. Steve's fighting a very good campaign in Glenrothes. He's got a lot of supporters on the ground and he's got a lot of good ideas. And I wish Stephen, if he's watching this, continued success with your team. So next up, we have Dorothy Yost.
Hello, I'm Dorothy Yost and I'm standing as a candidate for the Scottish Family Party in the south of Scotland. I live and work in Ayrshire and my favourite thing is to walk my dog on the beaches around here. Prior to this I lived in the Scottish Borders for 10 years where I worked as a music teacher throughout the region. I've been a primary teacher for 30 years now, and education is one of my priorities personally. I'm not pleased with the SNP ideology and the way they try to impact on schools, and particularly schools' relationship with parents. I believe that parents should have the utmost respect and should be respected as the decision makers for the children. I resent the Chief Mammy and her minions trying to take over this role from parents. I also would like to see standards being raised, particularly in literacy and numeracy in Scotland's schools. And I believe that the Scottish Family Party has the answer to this through advocating a return to more of an emphasis on knowledge and understanding. We do have examples of excellence of this in Scotland. particularly the sector leading North Lanarkshire Council. And I believe a vote for the Scottish Family Party will be a vote for the best outcomes for the children of Scotland.
Thank you, Dorothy. And another very experienced teacher, and what a lovely setting there on the Scottish coast. Beautiful sky and sea, and a very contented hound who must have had quite a few quite a few biscuits. And here we have Joshua, another one of our sort of younger members. Good evening and a warm welcome to you, Joshua.
Good evening, Michael. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. And I like the studio, beautifully lit. So Joshua, tell us something about yourself and why you're standing for the party and what sort of interests you in terms of policies.
Well, the reason that I'm standing as a list candidate for the Glasgow region is I have seen the greatest injustice in modern times, and that is the systematic execution of unborn children. And as has already been stated, the Scottish Family Party are pro-life, and one could argue that we are the only pro-life, truly pro-life party in Scotland. We value human life from beginning to end, and despite what popular opinion may lead us to believe, the science actually shows that life begins from the moment of conception, and popular opinion does not supersede fact, and that is a fact myself and everybody who's part of the Scottish Family Party will fight for. The mother's womb should be the safest place on earth. Instead, it's become more deadly than the killing fields of Cambodia. We seek to see an end to abortion as a means of birth control, instead offering independent counselling and support for those considering abortion. We would ensure that young people are given the facts surrounding abortion and the possible psychological and emotional trauma that such a procedure can cause. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. Someone very close to me, many years ago now, underwent an abortion, and to this day, she still suffers. Of course, all of the policies in depth can be found on the website. I'm just conscious of time, but what I will say is this: fallible human beings have no right deciding who lives and who dies, and we definitely don't have a right deciding what makes someone human or what constitutes a person. If history is anything to go by, when we start trying to define humanity by our own standards, we fall into dangerous genocidal tendencies. For too long, our future world leaders, philanthropists, entrepreneurs, brain surgeons, doctors have been systematically executed by the state. So I'm calling on anybody, join us, and let's see an end to this immoral madness. Proverbs 24, verse 11 in the Bible says, "Deliver those who are led away to death, and hold back those who are stumbling to the slaughter." The fact is, children, unborn children, are being led like lambs to the slaughter. And I think I can speak for everybody who is associated with the Scottish Family Party when I say that we will fight, we will bleed, and if necessary, we will die to protect the unborn in Scotland. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joshua, for that very sympathetic and impassioned plea. We've heard you, and that was beautifully presented. Thank you very much indeed. Josh, and a very good evening to you. Could I invite up next Charles?
Hello.
Welcome, Charles. Good to see you.
Hi, Michael. Well, I would just like to say, I joined the Scottish Family Party really because of the way the state is taking control of every aspect of our lives, imposing thought control, attacking the family. Speakers are deplatformed from university debates. Teachers are fearful of losing their jobs if they disagree with pornography and anal sex being part of the school curriculum. Participating in abortions, magistrates are sacked if they suggest that a mum and a dad should be given preference in adoption cases over homosexual couples. And school children are now being taught that gender is different from biological sex and that kids can change their gender. We can't predict with any certainty what the weather will do in 3 days' time, but our government says that gender is socially constructed and can be changed merely by choosing. This is actually an attack on the created order. The Scottish Family Party is different. Look at our manifesto and you will see policies that actually allow people to engage in the free exchange of ideas in the public square. We will not support vindictive use of the legal system by persons claiming to be insulted. We will not support the killing of babies in hospitals, but we will support mothers. And we will ease the burden on families that choose to have mum nurturing her kids at home. The Scottish Family Party does not promote hate. We will not divide society into competing groups or target whole groups of people because of the crimes of a few perpetrated hundreds of years ago. We are all part of the same society. Fat, thin, tall, short, black, white, manager, employee. But we now live in a society which encourages division and a sense of victimization because of a biased media and political inaction. People should not be able to initiate police prosecutions merely by the use of anti-labels. People should be prosecuted for crimes against any citizen or for encouraging violence against others. But creed, colour, or social status should have no bearing on the prosecutions. We do not want a sectarian society. All people in our society should receive the same protection. The breakdown of the family structure is the source of countless problems. Research has clearly shown that growing up with mum and dad gives kids the best chance of a happy, successful, and fulfilled life. The family is the basic building block of society. We need to support the family, and to do that, we will support the family structure that best fulfills that role, i.e., mum and dad looking after their kids. I decided to come into politics to challenge the cosy consensus in Holyrood, which ensures, for example, that parents are not informed about the content of the sex ed programme in schools. Parents are demonised as bigots if they complain, and they run the risk of their children being removed from them by the state. I'm in the Scottish Family Party to protect kids. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Charles, for that common sense and that common sense view, and I very much appreciate that. So a very good evening to you. And can I call up Martin Bell? Hi, Martin. Hi.
How you doing?
Good to see you.
You as well.
Mm-hmm. Now tell us a bit about yourself and which policy have you picked out to present to us this evening?
Well, I'm running for Renfrewshire North and West constituency, and I'm also on the regional list for the West as well. I first became aware of the Scottish Family Party when at my son's primary school I realized the detrimental effects that the curriculum for excellence was having on the students. Major building blocks of the education system are memorizing the alphabet and memorizing the times tables. But these elements of education are being skipped over, therefore causing major gaps in basic tools that kids need for the future. The reason why they skip over memorizing so I've been told, is because some kids struggle with memorizing. So they therefore want to leave that out as a tool. So all the kids don't memorize at all. And so therefore, without the memorizing, kids aren't using their brains the same, and things are being missed in the future. I was speaking to a constituency, a lady in my constituency the other day, and she's a S1 English teacher. And she said to me, as soon as I told her about our plans at the Scottish Family Party, she immediately said, I'm on board. Because let me tell you, S1 English this term, I had 10 students come up to S1 that didn't know how to read. And she goes, so now I have to divide my time between several kids in each class that can't read, while I'm also trying to divide my time with the other kids that are more advanced and working on other projects. And she goes, that this is definitely going to hinder how I teach my kids this term. There was another thing that has also bothered me, and that is it's become blatantly obvious that the SNP government is apparently dividing the country instead of uniting it, especially at these difficult times. The liberal agenda of encouraging special interest groups just divides the population and is causing it to break down. As government gets bigger, our freedoms are being eked away. We at the Scottish Family Party mean to stop the erosion of education and stop the erosion of our freedoms and get families working again.
Yeah, that's great, Martin. Once again, a lot of common sense, and I'm sure you're going to do very well in your campaign with that sort of approach.
Thank you.
Very good evening to you.
Right, cheers.
Okay, we've got one more candidate before I present a few ideas myself. Don, good. Sorry, David. David, good to see you. Welcome.
Hi, Michael. Yes, I'm so sorry that I have given you and Richard a bit of a headache. IT really is not my thing. I'm getting an echo at the moment, so please forgive me if I seem to stumble.
Mm-hmm.
I'm standing as a list candidate for the SFP in the Northeast region. My working life has included a spell in education, 15 years working on a farm, and over 20 years working on a self-employed basis, selling aerial photographs, mainly to farmers in this Northeast region. I'm now retired, have lived up here 24 miles north of Aberdeen since 1996. I voted for devolution, and I am so glad that this gave us a more democratic system of choosing our MSPs with the inclusion of list candidates, thus enabling upcoming parties like ourselves to get to Holyrood. I'm standing for the protection of children in Scotland. The present government proposed telling primary-aged children that they can choose whether they want to be a boy or a girl. Have you ever heard of anything so preposterous? This is child abuse of the first order, cloaked in the language of children's rights. I cannot stand by and allow this to happen. Whatever has happened to common sense? Thankfully, I am representing a party that will resist this nefarious notion and ensure that Scottish children can enjoy their childhood without politicians that should know better sowing confusion into their innocent lives. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David. And I'm sorry about the confusion at the beginning. And it's always lovely to see you. And what a beautiful testimony on why you're standing for our party. Many thanks, and a nice evening to you. And our penultimate candidate is Don Marshall, who's also vice chairman of the Scottish Family Party. Good evening, Don.
Good evening, Michael. Good evening.
Welcome.
Yeah, I when I returned back to Scotland in 2018 after being away for a many number of years, almost 30 years, I was quite shocked to what I found, because you don't see what Scotland is like in the political side when you're living in England. It's not clear. You just see just on the outskirts. But I found that the SNP's policies were not working, damaging and breaking down family unit, which I see as the fundamental building block of society, and families are not encouraged and supported. There's things like the named person scheme that had been stopped in name, but it still exists under a different disguise, and it's still going on at the moment. Then you've got the anti-smacking bill that's taking ability for parents to effectively discipline their own children, and we're talking about reasonable, small. We're not talking about anything excessive. There was already enough protection there. Religious freedom of expression has been subdued, and the recent hate crime legislation has been a massive attack on freedom of speech. And so when I just felt that, called to get involved in politics, and I did join the SNP when I returned to Scotland, thinking that was the right way. And I was just, it was even worse what I saw. And then when I found the Scottish Family Party, I found that, many of the policies sat alongside the things that I was interested in. But tonight I wanted to just touch on the family side, and the fact that, this erosion of the family unit, which, if you have, strong, stable families units within society, and that is what helps society grow. There's so many benefits about marriage, and that union together. For health, on average, husbands and wives live happier, healthier, longer lives. With wealth, they tend to build more wealth and contribute more to the economy than just cohabiting couples. And children that are raised by a mother and father in a stable family environment are more likely to stay at school. They're more likely to cover more economic prosperity as they grow up, and they're likely to have more positive attitudes to marriage as well in their later life. And there's also benefits against crime and domestic violence when people are in stable and happy families. And marriage itself creates a social, economic, and safe, stable unit for society. And children, families, they thrive within that environment. Now, I'm on my second marriage, so I was married before, and I've been divorced, and I can see the destruction and the pain that causes. And I do understand that there are reasons why marriages do break down and split, but at the moment it's so easy, both within the legal system and society, to walk away from a marriage. And so if we support and encourage and give a support network for marriages and people to succeed in that, then it's going to be far better, because the benefits of marriage far outweigh the cost and the damage of divorce, for example. So.
Okay, well, thanks for that sort of heartfelt and sort of honest portrayal. And I know you're fighting a very good campaign in Perth, and you're up against Mr. Swinney, and you're looking to score a few points there, aren't you, Don?
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things with John Swinney being behind things like the named person scheme, being in charge of education, and with the poor record of education in Scotland. I mean, when I left Scotland, education in Scotland was seen as the best, and now it's gone so far downhill that it's unrecognisable from what I saw before. And so, he is the man who's responsible behind this. He's responsible and has already admitted to me in a one-to-one debate at a parents' forum event that he thinks that the sex education material is appropriate. And for me, I just wouldn't want my daughter actually seeing and learning some of those stuff, some of the things that's in that content. So the ability to be able to maybe ask him questions and challenge him is really one of the reasons why I wanted to stand up. Now, we are a new party. We can make an impact wherever we try, and the list vote does give us. So I'm also standing as a lead candidate in Mid Scotland and Fife region. So, This is where we can really make an impact. All we need is, at least one voice within Parliament as a party, and we can make an impact, and we can represent those unborn children, those people, those elderly people that need better care, the education, and the parents that don't want the children being taught things that they don't agree with. So that's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Okay. Every success in your campaign, Don.
Thank you,
and
Michael.
it's great to see you this evening. Thank you.
Cool.
Okay, very briefly, I'm seeking to serve the people of the Highlands and Islands alongside Philip Tanzer. Now, in my career, I've worked up in the Highlands and Islands, and I've advised companies in power generation, engineering, ports, textiles, tourism, food processing, services, and many other industries across the region. So I've got to know it, and I really do love it up there. But because of these experiences, I just wanted to make a few comments about economic policies of the party. And because I've been struck by the levels of enterprise and commercial acumen in the Highlands and Islands, I know the vast majority want to get their business back to a normal operating environment and put an end to the stop-start COVID carpet bombing of the economy. Now, companies look for stability to enable long-term decision-making on investment and business strategy. They certainly don't want continuous demands for an independence referendum as they attempt to rebuild their companies. They certainly don't want a tariff wall put up between Scotland and their main trading partner south of the border. So our party's view is the referendum must go off the agenda until things settle down. Now, as a party, we believe in a thriving economy, but that's not supported by incessant government intervention and the building up of long-term public debt. Current project. This just puts a burden of payment onto future generations. The other parties talk a good game about building a sustainable future and environment for our children, but in reality, they are mortgaging their inheritance to the hilt. The Highlands and Islands, and Scotland as a whole, already has a serious demographic problem. The population is declining, and there will not be the future generations to pay off the mortgage and support our aging population. We will increasingly depend on migrant labor and immigration, and our party supports immigration, which is controlled and legal, but it cannot be right, surely, that we're stealing medical staff from countries whose health services desperately need to keep their expertise. Is it not beyond our ability to plan that our once great university medical faculties can start training the number of doctors, nurses, and dentists we need for the future, and we are able to get an attractive location for our trained medics to stay? So this demographic time bomb says much about our beliefs as a nation. The collapse of marriage, smaller and fragmented families, and increasing rates of abortion reflect a nation which is in moral, cultural, and economic decline. The current Holyrood setup totally ignores this reality and revel in an ever more progressive agenda. This must change, and a vote for the Scottish Family Party, your second vote on the regional list, will enable us to achieve this. So you've seen 14 of our candidates. I see there are some sort of comments, and we've probably got about 5 minutes left, but there's Richard, are you sort of pulling the strings in the background there on the questions, as we have sort of 5 minutes left of this transmission? I can't see anything on my chat. So you've had the opportunity to see these candidates, and I said at the beginning, they're a passionate bunch. I mean, you're not going to win many friends, and you're not doing this for self-seeking. This, you can see, they're naturally motivated. They have a lot to offer. They believe passionately in our manifesto commitments, and I've got great faith in them. And I think they're going to do a great job. And I think we might be surprised come election night, and that may well be a stepping stone to greater things in follow-up elections or by-elections. So I'm very proud of this group, and some of them, have actually paid their own registration fee as constituency MPs, which demonstrates the level of commitment they're demonstrating. And I mean, what a wonderful option for so many of the electorate to have this option on the ballot paper, being pro-family, pro-marriage, pro-life, pro-traditional values, rather than being poo-pooed and swept under the carpet. Here is an option at last to be voted for, and we're privileged, all of us, to be given this opportunity to demonstrate to the electorate there is a party that reflects the common sense view, the family view, the pro-life view, the pro-marriage view. So dear viewers, dear members, dear benefactors, all the candidates, this has been a great opportunity for us to showpiece our candidates, and I hope you take something from this. And if there is any follow-up you wish to make, please email us, please get in contact with the party, please join the party, please offer to help in our campaigning. We need help with the distribution of literature. This is moving very, very fast. We have a big literature drop through the Royal Mail coming up, that started already in the north, Highlands and Islands in the northeast, and it's spreading through the rest of Scotland. So the awareness of the party and our manifesto stance is that awareness is increasing, and we need more hands-on support. So please volunteer your services. So if I could wish you all a very good evening, and enjoy the rest of the evening, and I hope you enjoyed this session. Good night.